Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Welcome in to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. I'm Charles Bishop along with A.D. Drew and Wilton Jackson tonight. Guys, it's championship week. Whether we're talking about the SWAC Championship, whether we're talking about Valdosta versus Virginia Union, it's December football. What could be more exciting? I mean, this is what it's all about. Wilton, I mean, we into the thick of it now, buddy.
Yeah, no, we are. Right, we've been talking about these rankings. We've been talking about the top teams, the elite teams all season. It all comes down to this specifically in the SWAC. South Carolina State is waiting on an opponent, and they'll find out after this weekend who they're going to play between Jackson State and Southern. Then, of course, in Division II with Virginia Union, talk about a run they've been on. Going up against a really, really strong Valdosta State team this weekend. Obviously Coach Park is going to have those guys ready. Tremaine Jackson, an outstanding job, what he's done at Valdosta State. So it's going to be some exciting football to watch this weekend.
AD, man, we talk about getting into it. We had Dr. Parker on Tuesday. But I mean, Virginia Union football going up against Valdosta State. I mean, that's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a little bit of scoreboard watching going on Saturday, right? Unmute yourself, AD.
All right, there we go.
There we go.
In addition to scoreboard watching, there's going to be some Harlan Hill watching. Mm-hmm. Also, as two of the candidates for the Harlan Hill Award, Jaden Byers, along with, and why am I drawing a blank, the quarterback for Valdosta State?
Sammy Edwards.
Yeah. Go head to head, and considering that those votes are not due until after that game, that may go a long way in determining which one of those two young men happen to win the Harlan Hill. And just full disclosure, I didn't wait for the game on Saturday. Thank God I'm back in Division II football. So I do have a vote, and my vote was turned in about an hour after the ballot opened. And y'all can take a wild guess as who got my number one vote.
Yeah.
Let me see. What did you do?
Let me put it to you like this. On the regional nominations, I went all HBCU.
There you go. That man whatsoever.
At the top of the national nomination, I went HBCU first. Ellis, Valdosta quarterback, he was number 2. And the running back from Charleston who got 2,000 yards on the season, he got my third place vote.
I got you. Man, we'll get into.
I was fair, but I was a little biased in the number one, obviously.
No doubt. We'll get into everything, and then of course news and notes going into the day. We got some topics that we kind of have to bat around. Especially we got some more coaching moves. So we're up to 9 now.
It was 9 this morning. Do I need to add another finger?
And 9 is what I know right now.
I got 9 too.
Okay.
9 lives. 9 lives does not apply to coaches.
Let me start things off. Well, welcome to episode 594 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab and Show and Podcast, the show that's covering all things, covering the HBCU sporting diaspora and all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and the HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host tonight until Dr. Cavil gets in. I'm Charles Bishop. Of course, I introduced Wilton and AD Drew there along with us tonight. And of course, we're filming from our home studios. Well, actually on the road. I am on the road. I'm actually here in Jackson early for the game. We can kind of get things set up a little bit. But of course, sending the signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer himself, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. So in between Tuesday and today, Kendrick Wade moving on from Mississippi Valley State. And I know one of the things, we talked about some of these coaching changes that's going on. We also have Grambling moving on from their offense coordinator, Eric Dooley. But I kind of posed this question to Doc the other night, AD, in terms of just kind of looking at where we are within college football. And I mean, this isn't the HBCU thing. This is the state of college football as we know it. But I mean, coaches right now, they get maybe, and I've said my own little theory on this. You got 10 games to win over a fan base, but you got roughly about a season and a half before, kind of everybody just starts looking like, okay, this ain't going in the right direction. Is my theory right? Is where we are, AD?
Let me expand upon your theory. Shout out to Stephen Gaither. He posted a tweet. I don't know if that was yesterday or today. And he posted the 2022 SWAC Media Guide cover.
Yep.
The lone wolf still standing.
Yeah.
On that Media Guide cover.
Yeah.
Is one coach, Eddie Robinson Jr. And of course, I tweeted a reply back to him. Go back to 2019, and those folks are our ancestors now. and when you think about it, 2019 is 5 years, 5 seasons ago. Take out the COVID season, that's 4 seasons.
Yep.
That was a normal coaching cycle. But what has happened since 2019? We've had a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We've had NIL, and we've had the transfer portal. All 3 affected college coaching and expectations from fans and administrators when it comes to not just college football, everybody. I'm talking about basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, whatever kind of balls you want to put out there. It has affected our mindset, and especially with our microwave society. They think that they can go in the portal and get kids, add kids, and stir, and you're going to have a championship a year later. Hell, even with Jackson State, what they did, it still took them 2 years to get it right, getting kids from the portal. FAMU, it took them 2 years to go in and add those pieces from the portal. Chennis Berry had a cheat code because he brought his key players with him who had eligibility remaining. So Chennis Berry is ahead of the curve when it comes to using that transfer portal. But because of that and NIL, fans have a certain level of expectation that is, dare I say it, it's unrealistic.
Let me ask this question, Wilson, and you threw out something, AD, in terms of microwave. Do fans have a right to sort of expect, hey, I'm paying X amount of dollars for a ticket now. I mean, you say it's not realistic, but I got 2 examples lately where it is realistic with Prime at Jackson State and the continuation of it, kind of continuing to happen with Jackson State with TC, Chennis Berry at South Carolina State. Is it wrong? And I know every fan base is unique, but is it wrong to be like, you know what? No, we need to win right now.
Charles, I think that's always been that way. It hasn't just been that just now. Fans have always had an expectation to win. I think it's just a lot louder right now for all the reasons that AD just pointed out. And those expectations aren't going to go anywhere because unless NIL is about to go somewhere, the transfer portal is about to go somewhere, these high caliber coaches coming in from, maybe bigger institutions or former professional players coming into these HBCU programs looking to lead, 9 times out of 10, those expectations aren't going to go down. They're going to continue to rise. So, no, they're going to still have those expectations of thinking we want to win. And especially if we are paying our dollars to sit in these seats to come to these games, we expect them to win now.
Can I get a piece of that?
How much has social media turbocharged sort of the win now environment? Because most schools have their own podcasts, their talking points. You can get your school news. You don't have to rely on the Clarion Ledger. You don't have to rely on the Baton Rouge app. You don't have to rely on newspaper sources now to get your team news. How much has the sort of the podcast era turbocharged what fan bases expect, AD?
It has, and it's not just when it comes to our athletics. Hell, look at our politics. It has turbocharged our views on politics and world news. But going back to your question that you asked, Wilton, yeah, that expectation has always been there. But before, as a fan, I just wanted to see the trend line. I just wanted to see if we were trending up from the previous coach to year 1 to year 2. I give you the benefit of doubt year 1 because you have to get your own players in. Yeah. But year 2, year 3, year 4, you have to be trending towards the championship. Year 3, you should be in the conversation. Year 4, I expect you to be fighting it out. Number 1, number 2. That's not what we expect anymore. You know, the heck with, I'm gonna give you the benefit of doubt. That is gone out the window. I need to see you trending in August of your first fall practice. by homecoming, I need you to be in contention. Come November, you need to be in championship mode. That's what we expect. Year 1 now. Year 1. It's not realistic, especially and I'm gonna turn it back over. Considering and we've had 9 openings right now. Let's see how long it takes to fill those 9 openings. Because previously those 9 jobs, 7 of them would still be at 7 of those jobs right now, and people don't start getting let go to Christmas or after Christmas because we want to be nice to them and let them their family get to the holidays or for whatever reason. So. And I hate to say this, I'm kind of glad that schools are moving now, because especially with the shortened portal window down to 30 days now, you got to start making these moves now. But getting rid of the coach is only step 1. Step 2 is getting another coach in. Can you get another coach in within 7 to 10 days? Or are we waiting on somebody off Chennis Berry's staff, somebody off of Dr. Parker's staff, off of TC's staff, because those are the 3 that's playing right now? Or are you looking for somebody off of one of those staff? Or are you looking for somebody off of Sam Shade's staff last week? So, all those different factors right there. Let's see how long it takes to fill these jobs.
You know what? When we come back out of this break, I'm going to put you guys on the board of trustees, and I'm going to ask you guys.
As long as it's not FAMU or Texas Southern. We don't want to coaching high.
But I'm going to ask the question: what fits in various cultures? Who could go in and do the job in Mississippi Valley? Who could come in and do the job at North Carolina A&T? I mean, I think these are fair questions to ask in terms of, is there somebody out there that fits the personality and fits the culture of that particular school? We'll come back. We'll talk about it on the other side here on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We'll be right back.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
HBCU football fans, this year's Cricket Celebration Bowl has a new date. A champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th as the MEAC and SWAC champions meet once again. Join us in Atlanta for championship football, interactive fan experiences, and iconic marching bands. It's an HBCU family reunion that you don't want to miss. See who will be crowned the next HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
When it comes
at AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
And welcome back in to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dr. Bill's inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles Bishop, AD Drew, and Wilton Jackson in tonight. And don't worry, folks. I'm getting texts. Yes, well, I'm going to make the guys. They're going to put their headsets on. One is going to be offense coordinator. The other is going to be defense coordinator. And we're going to flip things around. We're going to do that. We're going to talk about the games. We will get into Southern Jackson State, the uniqueness of that rivalry. But I wanted to kind of expand a little bit on really, what sort of, and it's an inexact science, but what fits at a particular school. Like if I go up to Alabama A&M, like, is there somebody that's churning in your head now? Like that would be a great fit at Alabama A&M. This individual, he's taking this team. So this will be a great fit at A&T. This will be a great fit at Delaware State. Mississippi, nobody has looked at this person, Mississippi. What is it going to take? AD, I'll start with you. Like from looking at North Carolina A&T's culture, we'll start there. What do you think is a decent fit at North Carolina A&T?
The first thing that I would look at is the tradition of the school. We could take the 9 schools that we have. What type of football tradition do they have? Are they a FAMU type tradition, a Tuskegee type tradition, a Southern, a Jackson State type tradition, where they have had success in the past, but that success may have been 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Reason why I say I start there is because those alumni and fans from 20 years ago, that's your money. Those are your big money. Those are your big money boosters. And Charles, you could probably attest to this. With Coach Prime coming to Jackson State, you probably saw more of the old head alumni come back. As they after Comedy, they probably started disappearing, Charles. And tell me if I'm wrong when I'm making this analogy. Now they are donating more. Those alumni who were there during the Comedy era, who now are into their professional lives, can feel good about giving back. So number one is, what type of tradition do I have? If I have some type of tradition, I need somebody who I would probably go with somebody with some proven success. I'm not saying it every time, but that's where I would tend to lean. Now, if I'm a tradition like Valley's tradition was honestly a 5-year blip on the radar, it seems like, back when the Satellite and Jerry Rice. If I'm an Elizabeth City, if I'm a Lane who really has not established that tradition, I may be able to take more of a chance on a young, hot coordinator or hot position coach, or even dare I say it, a retread who was in a bad situation somewhere else, so that we can give that person an opportunity, because I won't say there is no standard, but the bar is lower than it would be at a FAMU, at an Albany State, at a Tuskegee, or one of those tradition rich programs. And I'm going to use them again. Take a Chennis Berry, who had been mulling around as an assistant coach for all those years. Benedict, who had no football tradition, and he goes over there and he builds the tradition for a Benedict. Can I find that coordinator like that? Last thing, given the culture of what's going on now and the success that I'm seeing, I want somebody whose specialty is either offensive or defensive line. I don't know if I necessarily want a coordinator to lead my team, because just because you can cook, i.e. the coordinator, does not mean you can manage the restaurant. I need somebody who can manage the restaurant. I don't care about the bill, because the manager's not getting in the kitchen. He's the one who's going to hire the cook, hire the waitress, and the dishwashing staff and everybody else. That's the type of person that I need with that type of skill set, not the one who can cook you a 5-course meal.
Wilton Ram Nation points out Prime was the perfect fit for Jackson State at that time, just as TC was the perfect fit for Jackson State post-Prime. With South Carolina State, Chennis Berry was the perfect fit for South Carolina State. Is there a Rod Broadway sitting in the weeds out there, for somebody out there?
I don't know. I mean, and it's hard to compare people to Rod Broadway. We're talking about a really great, legendary coach of what we're saying. But I think as you look at like different teams and the best fits, I take, for example, like the Valley situation. Valley hasn't historically in the past they've had success like back then, but as far as like more recently within like the last 20 to 30 years, they haven't had that much success. So I look at like, say, a Jackson State team that while before Prime, within that last decade or so, there wasn't a lot of success. But when you look beyond that decade, there are a lot of great players that came from Jackson State. TC happened to be one of them, and it just it was a perfect situation for him to step in as head coach in this particular time. If you look at Valley, I'm not necessarily sure if you could go back within the last 20 to 30 years and say, who's that player that played at Mississippi Valley? Potentially, if that was the case, they wanted somebody that played there or that had a strong continuity from playing on the team that you could point out and say, this is the person for Mississippi Valley.
I wonder if there's a reason why Satellite has never been talked about in Valley.
Satellite was at Valley once upon a time.
Yeah,
I mean, but he hasn't been talked about recently. But he's still out there as a quarterback coach, OC, and he's done everything else. You can't get too much better at a Valley than Satellite. Outside of Jerry, I mean,
and he has no desire to be a head coach,
and that's troubling. That's my point. That is real troubling that he has no desire to go back to his alma mater.
Well, is it more so the fact that maybe he doesn't want to go back, or it's more so the fact that like he doesn't want to get into this situation of like, I know what's there. I know that they may not be trying to change, because what we also know too is that when you're a coach and you stepping into a new program, I remember talking to Coach Flowers about this at Johnson C. Smith. You have to have people around you, administration-wise, that's going to be able to give you the resources that you need to be successful. And if you're a Jerry Rice, if you know coming in that while this is my alma mater, I love my program, I love my school, if you're not going to give me the resources to do what I need to do I really want to put myself in that situation and adding all that extra stress?
Go ahead, AD.
Who's the person who's going to lead the charge of those resources? It's going to be the athletic director. How well does the athletic director fundraise? Is the athletic director a micromanager, or does he just hire his or her people and let them do it while he goes out and finds the cash? And then what is the relationship between the athletic director and the president or chancellor of that institution? What are the desires of the board of directors? Do you have a board of directors? And I hate to say it, like FAMU or like tennis, like Texas Southern, who want to meddle and get into it, or do they trust the president and the athletic director to make that hire and they rubber stamp it? So what are those relationships? Because you better know those relationships before you take this job. All these people who are going to be talked about for these 9+ jobs, because there may be another 1 or 2 that may open up. X's and O's should not even really be discussed in the interview, because you won't even get to that portion if you can't handle the X's and O's portion of it. I need to know about the management style. I need to know about your people skills.
Let me be Joe Fan. For a second. What's a reasonable amount of games to where I've evaluated and it's like, this is who we are? I mean, what is a reasonable amount of games to, like, you know what, this was the guy, or nah, we about to fall behind, and we're about to fall behind fast because transfer portal is going to start eating us up. Not sure we can retain our talent, things of that nature. I mean, what is a reasonable amount of time for a fan to expect turnaround in terms of the hire?
Are you looking at it from an aspect of one single season, or maybe like within that 2-season range amongst the games? Within
the beginnings of the contract. I mean,
okay.
what's a reasonable amount of time?
The Carlos Brown, the 2-year contract. That's what we've been seeing lately.
Yeah.
Shout out to Carlos Brown.
Shout out to Carlos Brown. Right. This is a fascinating discussion. But I'm sure we'll get more into that as we start to see some of these hires start to come in and sort of prognosticate in terms of what we might think they might do. But there are games to talk about. When we come back on the other side of this break, we have to get into this SWAC championship game. It is Southern Jackson State Part 2. Jackson State currently 5-game winning streak over the Southern Jaguars. Can the Jaguars break the curse this weekend? Wilton, I'm expecting 50,000. We'll talk about it here on the other side, here on Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We'll be right back.
HBCU football fans, a champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th. MEAC champions, SWAC champions, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, crowning an HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
ESPN Band of the Year returns to Atlanta on December 13th. 4 marching bands will qualify for the big stage, where 2 national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th. For event and ticket information, visit bandoftheyear.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
Hey, did y'all sign the roll I think he coming down the hall, y'all. I think he coming.
They should sign and roll. Exactly.
I think we signed it in time.
That was pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, great dialogue that you doing there. Keep it going, Charles.
Oh, no doubt. We're about to talk. We're about to get into this SWAC championship game, and I was gonna put the headsets on everybody. You know, in terms of taking a look at what Jackson State has to do to stop Southern. What Southern has to do to stop Jackson State. Is there a player or two that we all looking out for? But let's get into it. SWAC Championship, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, ESPN 2. This rivalry, Jackson State Southern. I mean, this is, you know, for a lot of Jackson State fans of a particular generation, this is their rival. Same thing with Southern. And for another SWAC championship, they meet each other again. But stakes still high. Different personnel coming into this particular SWAC championship game than what we saw the previous SWAC championship game. But let's get into it. I mean, I'm gonna put the headset first on you, Wilson. Jackson State offensively, we know they like to ground and pound. I've often said that this particular Jackson State team, it sort of reminds you of sort of the way they are physical of those 80s, those 90s Jackson State team that, you know, put it on you quick. But what do you see when you take a look at this Jackson State football team?
I see, you know, a rushing attack that's lethal, that's been strong all season. Honestly, I'm expecting them to be able to run the ball against Southern on Saturday. I don't know if they'll have another 200-yard game against Southern like they did in that first performance, but I definitely expect them to be able to run the ball, obviously with Irv Mulligan, with Travis Terrell, Amari Matthews, because I'm expecting Southern obviously to tighten up a little bit in the defense and being able to stop Irv a little bit. I'm also expecting Jacobian Morgan to have a strong game too. I think he's going to be required to pass the ball more this time around because I believe that Southern is going to come into this game and be a little bit more physical on defense and stopping the run. Because again, you watched that same game I watched the first time when they played. They pretty much got Jackson got whatever they wanted on the ground in that game. As far as like, you know, just looking at that game and what they were able to do, I don't expect it to be that easy as it was in their first game, but I definitely expect them to still be able to run the ball.
Doc, let me make sure I get you into the dialogue here when we take a look at this Jackson State Southern matchup. Are there things that this Southern offense can do to this Jackson State defense?
I think they're going to have to find a way to run the ball, which is pretty obvious in what you want to do, but I think that's going to be a challenge. That's a formidable defense over there in Jackson State, but they're going to have to do some things, and maybe you get the tight end involved to try to loosen things up, you know, easy passes. And, you know, the intriguing thing about Southern is, you know, there's no hesitation from the head coach to go to the backup, maybe even deeper than that, to try to get things going. And all of them kind of have their skills, you know. Odin, when he goes, he likes to go long. He can really throw the deep ball. But Jackson State's is nice in the back four. And so they're not going to give that up too easy. So I think you're going to do maybe some crossing routes to kind of mix it up. You know, short passes to the running back that would be equivalent to runs. Obviously, first you're going to just line up and see, has anything changed where your front four can dominate and allow you. But if you know, you get a couple of series and that doesn't work, I think that's when you're going to start trying to do some things that will open it up so you can go deeper down the field and see how you can be successful. But I think this game is going to be kind of played within the trenches, particularly early. And so look for if you can get a turnover that styles the momentum and shortens the field for Southern in terms of what they need to do specific for offense. Can they get a big play on the kickoff return? You know, can they get field advantage in type of that framework? So those are some of the things I look at, particularly when you look at Southern's offense of what it can get done against Jackson State defense.
Let me throw this out there, and AD, I'll start here. Southern this past season called them the Cardiac Cats. They've won games in overtime. I called a game where they literally stole victory of Texas Southern. But how much does that play into coming into a championship game where the team just has the belief that at some point they're going to get it done?
How many of those 9 lives that a cat has the Southern Jaguars, a member of the Cat family? How many of those 9 lives have they used this season? We gonna find out Saturday how many of those 9 lives they have left. It may only be 5 or 6, or it may be life number 9 has been used already. But if Southern's ahead or it's close at the half, if Southern's ahead or it's close at the end of 3, because Southern does have that pedigree of having done that this year, those, I don't know if they wear, I don't know what color they wearing. They on the road. I'm assuming they're gonna wear their white. Those guys in that white, they gonna believe because they have done it. They have the trend this year. And I know it's been a while, Charles, but Jackson State has let people come back on them in the fourth quarter. Now, come November, looks like they solved those problems. But back in September and October, those things were there. So when you ask that, you need to ask the other half of that question. Will that trickle into the back of those Tigers' minds where they're like, oh, damn, we gonna let another team walk us down again? And before you jump off, here's one interesting stat that I found. Jackson State is averaging 5.5 yards on the ground. You know what that means? Every other time they run the ball, it's a first down.
First down.
It's a first down every other time they run the ball. So that is something that's not only a testament to running backs at Jackson State, but to that offensive line that they are able to get that type of production. If Jackson State could do that on Saturday, I don't give a damn how many lives the Cats have. They're going to run out.
Very interesting neato stat to me. Over the last, I believe, 4 games, Jackson State has only given up 10 points in the second half of games. From I guess, psychological standpoint, how big is that for Jackson State to get to halftime and have kind of know in the back of their head, listen, we know our coaching staff are going to make the adjustments and we're going to put us in place that's basically we follow the process and things take their course. Does that play into this game?
I think it does. Just like I think with Southern having the ability to walk people down in the fourth quarter. And obviously that's because they have confidence in their adjustments that they have been able to make. What it's going to come down to, Charles, more than anything else, is going to be discipline of these two teams. Will they go with the coverage that is called? Will there be blown assignments? Will there be that stupid penalty where I just got the first down and I do the celebration like I just won the doggone Super Bowl and they throw the 15-yarder on me, or the late hit or something along those lines. And speaking of late hits, let's not forget one of the starting defensive backs for Southern,
won't be playing,
who had an interception in the first half last week, has to sit the first half of this game. That's going to be a huge factor in this game.
Yeah, we'll see if that plays into this game with regards to who's going to be playing at that safety position.
That was Herman Brister III.
Herman Brister,
I was
exactly.
bring that when I talked about Southern's defense, and you're right, AD Drew. That's significant for me. In the championship game, you don't want to be without any of your key players. Not that you can't overcome it, but in some ways it's just a psychological thing as well. But the thing about Jackson State in terms of their defensive unit on Southern is, can they continue to be aggressive and stop people basically with their front, 4, if not the front 7? Can they force Southern to be as inefficient as they were the first game? That was 5 of 12. let's say they played a little better, but how much of that is because of the competition versus obviously some of it, I'm sure, them getting a little better. But, still, when you look at that Grambling game, and, Grambling obviously was going to come prepared to play, but you couldn't get too excited in regards to what Grambling did, where Southern couldn't really get going until late in that game. So that would be a major concern for me. Jackson State's ability to use to get to the quarterback, stop the run without having to call blitzes and things of that nature allows that defense to be a little more aggressive. They can put somebody in the box. They can roll over those safeties and things of that nature. So it's a tough thing for Southern. Now, Southern has that fighting punch of chance. They can find a way to keep it close. Then you get the thing where any championship game where the home team and the team that is highly favored, might get a little tight. So that's one thing Southern wants to try to find a way is, can we play in front? If not, can we keep it close? One score, less than a touchdown, field goal, you feel good about yourself. Or even if you're down by 7, but you don't want to get down to that double digits because then Jackson State just gets louded up. Even though Southern's going to come deep, Jackson State fans are going to get excited. Those doggone pom-poms going to get going. Band would get ready and all that stuff is just going to get ridiculous. And so it gets there. But that goes the other way too now. Southern gets a little momentum.
Well,
some fans that know how to do their little pom-poms as well. And they got a nice band, as many people, even though not quite rated high enough for either one of these bands to get into the band of the year. That's a whole different conversation. We won't go there today. But they gonna act like this is their band of the year to that point.
Yeah. I mean, you took me into a direction that I was really about to go into in terms of talking about the intangibles because, Jackson State home, hosting, their 12-man energy is palpable. There aren't a lot of fan bases that bring that 12-man energy on the road with them. Southern is a fan base that actually does that, and you touched on it, Doc. Not only that Southern fan base, but the jukebox band as well. How important is it for Southern to get off to a fast start to get their fan base lathered up?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. We know last time they came down there, a lot of people fell out and they didn't travel as deep as they normally. I don't suspect that will happen this time. They re-energized, feel a lot more comfortable. Early on the season, there were some question marks, but as things played out and they were able to get going a little more, they feel like they have a shot in this game. Many of the fans don't believe it's a puncher's chance. They believe that they can outright win this game. There's certainly some things they got to do, which is from their defensive side, that front 7, I'm going to say 7, because we know Jackson going to try to run the ball and impose themselves. Jackson ran for 200 yards in that first game. You talked about them averaging over the season over 5 yards. Within that game, they did 4.8, which shocked a lot of people because people thought Southern's defense was pretty stout coming in there. Yeah, they might have had some problems with offense. And some of that was attributed to the fact that they were on the field a lot in that game. We can't just ignore that to that factor. But, yes, in terms of Southern specifically, if they want to write a script that works for them, they want to get ahead early. They want to get them, and I think they want to do it a big momentum type play, over the top for a touchdown, a fumble that's returned for a touchdown, a fumble that sets up the offense to be able to get it quick. Because not only you get excited, you kind of get Jackson State kind of thinking twice. They're not. It's different if you walk down the field. People kind of get measured on that, but a big, quick strike to some degree would be fascinating to see if Southern can find a way to get that going in this game.
No doubt. We will take our last. I'll catch you on the other side, AD. We'll get this last break in, and then we'll look at you guys' final thoughts in terms of who's going to win the game, some players to watch, and we'll also talk a little bit. We talked on it on Tuesday. Virginia Union by Dawson State. We'll be right back on Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab.
HBCU football fans, a champion will rise at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 14th. MEAC champions, SWAC champions, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, crowning an HBCU national champion. For event and ticket information, visit thecelebrationbowl.com.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
ESPN Band of the Year returns to Atlanta on December 13th. 4 marching bands will qualify for the big stage, where 2 national champions will be crowned. Follow us on social media for rankings updates throughout the season. And join us at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on December 13th for event and ticket information. Visit Band of the Year.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
And welcome back into Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Shout out to Dealey and Jay Walker. Shout out to my people. Yes, I am in town. Yes, we will get up. So definitely want to get into this last segment and kind of take a look at some players that everybody is really paying attention to that needs to have a big game in this SWAC championship. And we'll finish things off talking about Virginia Union and Valdosta State, but we'll go around the room. Wilson, who needs to have a big game for Jackson State?
For Jackson State, I'm going to start with the defensive line. Obviously, True Thompson, Jeremiah Williams. How many times have we talked about him before throughout this season? Joshua Nobles, Reed Pulliam, Robert McDaniel, Isaiah Guthrie, Kibert Wiggins. Like on that defensive side of the ball, they need to have strong games. And I'll say this. Obviously, I was looking at the stats just to go back and look. Southern has more, they're averaging more passing yards than they're averaging running yards right now, although we know they like to run the ball. I'll say this. If Jackson State defense show up in the way that they've been showing up, I think Jalen Woods is going to have a tough time having time to throw the ball. And if that's the case, Southern is for sure going to have to rely on running the ball. And I think, obviously, if you're Jackson State, you could put more men in the box to stop the run. Jalen Woods could probably have some. I see him having some trouble if Jackson State defense shows up and ready to play on Saturday.
I'm going to flip it around, AD. Who has to have a big game for Southern?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me about Southern because Wilton Lee no meat on the bone when it came to
I noticed the meat being dug out.
Oh man, well let's start off since we talked about the run game. It has to you're talking Kobe Dillon and Kendrick Ryans have to be able to go off for Southern. You know, both those two backs there, they need to combine for $150 or more for Southern to have a chance in this particular ball game. Who's ultimately going to be the quarterback in this ball game? Because we know Terrence Graves is a fisherman by trade, because he is not afraid to use the hook to pull somebody and to put another quarterback in. So who is the quarterback for Southern? And can whoever's back there spinning the ball, can they get the ball to Chandler Whitfield in space and let him create? Those are the types of things that you want to look for. But I want to bring up something which I was going to mention before we went to the break. When Southern gets into the red zone, can they execute?
That's a good point.
Southern is only 26 or 36 in the red zone this season.
Next to last.
But let's take that one step further, though, Wilton. Touchdown efficiency in the red zone is 16 of 36. That is 44%. If Southern puts up 3s instead of 7s, Jackson State wins this thing running away.
Yep.
Doc, I'm gonna let you put a bow on Jackson State and Southern in terms of who you think has the edge in this.
I'm gonna keep it simple because both of these gentlemen knocked it out in terms of some key things to look at. I think Drew went in his bag of trips when he talked about Southern and the efficiency, lack thereof, in terms of something that they have to change if they want to win this game. And Wilton really stood up in terms of what he said. So I'm going to keep it simple from the standpoint, whoever can run the ball the best will win this game. Obviously, Jackson State has the ability to allow their quarterback to run a little more, but I'm going to put it on the guys that are used to taking those hits. Obviously, Mulligan, that's no secret to anybody in terms of what he's able to get going. If he is able to have his typical game, I have to say Jackson State wins. But on the other side, if Southern is going to find a way to get what most people see now as an upset, it's Kobe Dillon. Kobe Dillon has to come through. He has to have a big game. He has the ability to have it. And you're talking about top 10, top 6 running backs. Mulligan at number 1, Kobe Dillon at 6 in terms of what they've been able to do this year. That's overall stats. So that's against everybody, which is a little different if you look at it just from a conference span for it. Fascinating when you talk about what these teams are able to do. But that's my keys to success in terms of this game. Whoever's able to essentially control the line of scrimmage from an offensive line perspective and allows their running back to get going will hold on the trophy and punch their ticket and get a chance to hold up the SWAC Championship trophy with the commissioner, Dr. Charles McCullen, and then they'll get to take the next picture over with John Grant in terms of punching their ticket to the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta to face MEAC in South Carolina State.
Last question on this. Whoever wins the SWAC Championship, how do they match up with South Carolina State?
I would say Jackson State matches up better because just their physically abilities. South Carolina State is a very physical game. I hate to do this to BJ Jones and my other Carlos Brown, my other Southern fans out there, but I think just in terms of HBCU fans and general football fans, you would love to see Jackson State, South Carolina State do, if I'm allowed to say it, the second time with different coaches, obviously. But I think people would be fascinated. You got top 25 teams FCS. You have what most people had as the top 2 teams in the major division, as we like to rank it. And we've been arguing back and forth. You have almost even amount of voters, slightly going Jackson State, essentially 6. And you have the other 5 talking about South Carolina State. So people will hedge their bet going back and forth who they think is the best team. So I would personally want to see that in the matchup because I think it would be the best matchup in terms of those teams going up each other, talented at the defensive side of the ball, talented in terms of the running backs and the stable of running backs, quarterbacks that are mobile, that have been able to be relatively efficient in terms of what they get done. They obviously can throw the ball deep if you give them time. And you have 2 lines that have dominated each other, both offensively and defensively. To me, that's the matchup to have. 2 powerful fan bases that are going to show up and show out. Not that Southern wouldn't come deep if they had the chance, obviously, with winning the game. But that's the game I think would be the best matchup. And it's honestly the game I'd like to see just because of all the numbers point in terms of what that looks like.
Gentlemen?
You want to go first, AD, or I go?
I go. I'm going to pull on my inner John Grant right now. I want the champion to be in Atlanta, and I think the champion is going to match up good against South Carolina State. Now that I did my best John Grant
impersonation, I like it. And you did it well. You did it well.
He did.
And here's the irony of this. Doesn't Southern remind you of South Carolina State in 2021? South Carolina State in 2021. Throw the coaches out because we talking legendary coach Buddy Pugh in 2021. But South Carolina State was not a dominant team.
I think they came in 6-5.
6-5.
They did just enough to get the victories. They did just enough.
That's right.
To win the MEAC. And then they went into Atlanta. Close your ears, Charles. And whooped Jackson State's ass. So Southern kind of reminds me of that, just doing just enough to get to Atlanta and then open up the can when they get to Atlanta. So don't discount Southern, even though everybody on this panel is picking Jackson State. Let's be for real. But don't discount Southern getting there. Yeah, from a fan's perspective, Dr. Cavil is right. Jackson State, South Carolina State is the matchup fans want to see. Jackson State, South Carolina State is going to put plenty of butts in the seat. I'm not going to say more butts, but it's going to put plenty of butts in the seat. But we know how South Carolina hell, we already know what New Orleans and Atlanta do in football by themselves. So that same Bayou contingency going to Atlanta is nothing new. So I don't think either one of them is going to be a drop. You're going to be able to sell the game to anybody who's a football fan.
You're going to be able to sell the game. I definitely agree with that. And definitely Southern still has that puncher's chance. But Eddie Drew, I want to say this. Southern has done enough to get there, but I still feel like they lack some of the physicality that South Carolina State had in that season in 2021. But when I say this, I still feel like either team would match up well, but I think Jackson State matches up a little bit better just due to the fact of the talent on both sides. I feel like Southern has the defense to match. I'm not necessarily sure because of the inconsistencies and question marks at quarterback. Like when you look at South Carolina State and Southern, you have a quarterback in South Carolina State in Eric Phoenix. You have a quarterback in Jackson State with Jacoby and Morgan. South Carolina State has two dominant running backs. South Carolina State has two dominant running backs. Jackson State has a bevy of running backs. Offensive line continuity. Strength at wide receivers. Like South Carolina State, Caden High and Justin Brown. Jackson State, we know a wide range of wide receivers, and both defenses are solid. So I think from that standpoint, physicality versus physicality, that's what you really, really want to see. Not saying that Southern doesn't have it. I just think Jackson State has it a little bit more.
There it is. Jackson State Southern SWAC Championship game this Saturday. Before we close out, and we had Dr. Parker on this past Tuesday, but Eddie Drew, you're going to be covering this game with Virginia Union and Valdosta. Eddie, I'll start with you, bro. What is it that the Virginia Union Panthers have to do to go into Valdosta and do it again like they did in 2022?
Stop at somebody's thrift store on their way down to Valdosta, Georgia, and buy all the stickum that they can buy. Because the number one thing Virginia Union has to do is hold on to the football. They cannot afford to turn the ball over against this Valdosta State team. They cannot afford to have empty trips into the red zone. They can't even afford to have empty trips in plus territory against this Valdosta State team. They have to find a way to manufacture some type of turnover or multiple turnovers in order to stay in this game. That's how they did it 2 years ago. They generated turnovers. They held on to the ball. They were efficient. And it helps when you have a running back that runs for 3 bills against one of the top teams in the nation. Do I expect Jada Byers to run for 3 bills again against Valdosta State? Heck no. Because if they don't know anything from the scout report about Virginia Union, they know you better find 3. You better know who got 3. Who got 3? He over there.
Did 3 just go to the restroom? Where y'all at?
If 3 go to if 3 go to the bathroom, you better be washing your hands next to him in the sink. That's how it needs to be. Yeah, I had to clean it up because I was gonna say something else.
Yeah. We did good. We were nervous.
Yeah, but that's exactly what that's going to have to happen, which means that Virginia Union, who has one of the top 3 quarterbacks in Division II in passing efficiency, he is going to have to do something with the ball and be efficient. Just keep the chains moving. Tick, 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 tick. That's what's going to have to happen, because anything other than that, it's going to be Valdosta State, and I'll be upset for a moment, but I'll be happy for Coach Tremaine Jackson by the time I get in the car, because he is a good coach.
Doc Wilton, did they leave any meat on the bone?
None. So I'm gonna go back and just talk about the matchups. We got 1 versus 5 in the SWAC championship game. So I think that's a big deal. Southern is just outside of the top 25. But as we talked about the matchups, you have Jackson State at 15, 18 is South Carolina State, and 19 is Tennessee State. And their season is complete as they lost in their first round. But for Virginia Union, I like what AD said. I think it's biased. Obviously, I think other things beyond the simplistic components of the offensive line play, and I agree with a couple of our posters talking about that, is they're going to have a good game from the quarterback. And he's been able to show that he can get some things done. And I think he quietly, in a weird way, is not getting the recognition he deserves when you think about everything Byers is getting that he does deserve. So I think that's going to be unique from that perspective. Valdosta State will have a solid crowd, but they're not necessarily known for huge crowds. They just find a way to win. I'm not sure Virginia Union will show up as deep as they would in other areas, but I think they're going to travel pretty deep. This is deep as they've been in the playoffs. They've come back, obviously, from Thanksgiving, so they had a time now to kind of get the buses together, get the bus load. So I think they're going to be in there relatively deep in terms of coming to this game. So it's going to be interesting in that Division II matchup. So I'm going to have my cheat code and watching it on my phone as I'm preparing in Jackson to get ready for the big game there in SWAC Championship game. But you better believe I'm certainly going to have my eye to see what's going on down there in Valdosta, Georgia.
I need you to upgrade to the iPad, Dr. Cavil. That's iPad worthy. That's not phone worthy. You need to be at least on the iPad.
Well, I'm going to have my iPad, but I'm afraid I'm going to be walking around. And, you know, the thing that you do when you're in Jackson State and Southern with their fans, they are such great tailgaters. They're going to be trying to feed. So I got to be careful about how often I got to put my pad down. And not because they're going to take it, but I'll end up leaving it. I have some stuff and folks trying to find Dr. Cavil. I got your iPad. It's over here. Come get it. No, I don't need all that problem. I keep that in my bag. Now, if one of those tailgaters is nice and have an extra chair for me now, and they can sit down while I get a plate, then you're right. I'll pull out the old iPad, and I got the big one. Y'all see me on the plane. I get to sit down and plus sit back and watch my big iPad and my movies and checking up on when they doing the show. Carlos Brown, I'm on the plane half the time. I buy the Wi-Fi. I'm watching the show and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I travel in style. I like it. So I understand about the iPad, Drew. You
only person I know with an HD iPad. Yeah. Yeah. Man, that will bring episode 594 to an end. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure to share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Guys, it was a blast tonight. You know how we close things out. Wilton, we'll start it up with you, bro.
Of course.
AD.
Lecture.
Dean, it's yours.
Dismiss.